So, Joanne, what have we got here and what's going on?
So we're here on the, I think it's the 30th of July, it is, isn't it? 30th of July, Saturday. And we're talking to Simon Parks. Hello Simon,
Hello
and
there.
thanks for talking to us. Now we'd really love to hear your fascinating story, and maybe we could start at the beginning of your earliest memory.
All right, Joanne. My earliest memory would be prior to being born, probably a 6-month-old or 8-month-old baby. And all I have on that is a face that's projected into my mind. It doesn't actually come into the womb, it's projected into my mind. And I become aware, I realise that there's a lot to the world, that there's, I've been sleeping, I had no form, and this face appears. I don't know any dialogue, I can't remember any sort of conversations or anything like that, but I'm just extremely happy to know that there's a lot more to the world than I was aware of. And then the face just goes, and then I have no more remembrance.
And can you describe the face for us?
Like a kite shape, like a traditional kite shape. That's how I would, like a triangle inverted.
Right.
Imagine like that.
And with sort of human features on that?
Oh, very
kite?
much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wasn't unhappy. It was a very pleasant experience.
Yeah.
But that would be the earliest one. From being born, probably about 6 months old, the first memories I have of being in the cot, and then I'm on my back looking to the right, and I can see the slats of the cot, and then these two green, just describe them as stick things, just like bean poles coming in. But because I'm quite young, I can't actually sit up. But the next thing I'm aware is some movement above my head, and then I look, and then there are two hands coming down to get me, and they're green, only 4 fingers, and they're not like Mummy's hands, because Mummy's hands are pink and Mummy's got thumbs, they're 5. These are green, pointed, and there's 4 of them. And then they disappear. I'm picked up round the middle. Doesn't hurt, just very firmly gripped. And then as I lift, my head goes backwards, so I don't have any view of the creature at that point at all. I'm just lifted straight out of the cot, and then turned upwards, and my head then falls forward like that. It doesn't hurt me. And then I'm old enough to be able to lift my head up, and I'm looking straight into its face. And researchers refer to them as mantids.
Ah, okay.
So it's green, it's got very huge eyes, 2 tiny little holes for a nose, a very thin slit mouth, and it actually enters my mind through my eyes. It sends a message which I feel going down my optic nerve into my brain, and it says, "I am your real mother. I am your real mother. I am your more important mother."
And did you have a sense of peacefulness, or how was that? How did that?
No, I was just extremely happy. I had a feeling of falling. If you imagine falling down a well.
Oh yes.
So you're falling down a well, but you're not scared. It's just that you've lost control, if you like, and you're just falling. But at no point was it a threatening feeling. And the message was, "I am your real mother. I am your mother." And that's all that memory will go to. Nothing else of that. So that would be about 6 months old or 8 months old. From that, really it started when I was about 3.5 years of age, and I had chicken pox. I know it's quite hard to say, but my mother actually said, "Well, I'm going to work now. I'm 3.5 years old," and she actually said, "They will look after you." And she just went to work. She said, "I'll be back at lunchtime to feed you, but they will look after you." So she went, and she just left me a little jug of water and a little glass of water. And I sort of,
sorry, is this actual fact? As a little 3.5-year-old, your mum,
yes,
your human mum went off to work.
Yes, it's confusing, isn't it? Yes, my human mother.
And
I
left you where, in a chair, or?
No, in bed, because I had chicken pox.
Oh yes, okay.
I'm in bed. I've got chicken pox. She's put dabbed the stuff on the little bits, the pox. She's done all that with a yellow dropper thing, and then she said to me, "Right, I'm off to work now, and I'll be back at lunchtime to feed you, and they will look after you."
What did she mean by they?
Well, at that point, I had no idea what she meant, but Mum was quite happy for me to be left there, and at 3.5, I don't think you really realise what's going on, do you?
And did they turn up, or?
Well, I had a sleep, and then I was woken up. My name was called, and there was a guy who looked to me like a waiter in the room. He had a tray in his right hand with a glass, what looked like water, and over his left arm he had like a tea towel. So he struck me as a waiter, and I said, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm your doctor," which is odd because it didn't look like a doctor. It looked like a waiter, but he said, I'm the doctor. And I said, "Oh, I'm alone." And he said, "No, you're not. I'm here to look after you. Drink this. This will cure," it doesn't say your chicken pox, it says your viral infection. So I drink that, and then I go to sleep, and then I'm woken up again. And there are two green beings, which look like my other mum, but they don't have a purple cloak on. Should have mentioned the other one had a purple robe on.
Have you a sort of sense of how large or the size of these
Well, not at the
beings?
time. I have since then, because I've had so many experiences with them. What I call the doctors are about 8 feet tall. The one I call my real mother, or my other mother, or my more important mother, is about 9 foot tall. But the doctors are about 8 foot tall. But they vary, just like humans vary. They vary in height. So they're naked. They don't have any robing on or any clothes at all. And the two of them are there. And I say to them, "Who are you?" And they say, "We've come to make you better." So I say, "Oh, are you going to my chicken pox away?" And they say, "No, that's already been done. We've come to make you better." So I said, "Well, does Mummy know you're here?" "No, I don't mean my mother that's walked out the door. I mean the other mother." And they say, "Yes, your mother has sent us." I said, "Your mother has given this message for you, which is my little Adam with his back against the tree." So I know that is that mother, because no other mother would know that message for me. Because what had happened in between that time is that I've had this message come through my mind about Adam with his back against the tree. And I remember the little boy, I pushed my back against the pillow and pretended it was the tree. And what happens is that they want to put something into my hand. And they show me, it's like a marble. It's not made of glass. And inside is a tiny speck. And they show it to me and they say, "We want to put this into your hand. Do you give us permission?" And my fear, because it's so huge.
And at 3.5?
Yes, it's like a marble, and they must pick up on that, because they say straight away, no, that's the encasing, what's inside. And there's a tiny little black speck inside. And they said, "That's what we want to put into your hand." And I said, "Does Mummy want that into my hand?" And they say, "Yes, Mummy has asked us to come here, Mummy has asked us to do this." To which I then say, "What will it do?" And they say, "Mummy will know where you are all the time if you have this. If you get ill, we will know and we will help you. And it is a good thing." So I then said, "Is it a good thing?" And that throws them, because that's a real question, isn't it? And his answer is, it is a good thing if you accept it. If you want Mummy to know where you are, it is good. If you want us to come and help you, it is good. But if you don't want those things, it is bad. And they say to me, "You must make your choice." So I say, "Oh, I want Mummy to know where I am all the time. So give us your left hand." So it's under the bank. So bring it out. And then the doorbell goes to the flat, and they both stand stock still, and they don't move. And they both put their hand, they don't hurt me, but they both put their hands on my chest like this. And I know that one of them is communicating with somebody outside of the room. And then the wardrobe doors open, double doors, and two guys will come straight out, one after the other, and they've got black sunglasses, white shirts, black tie, black suits, and as soon as they come out, the first thing they do is say to me, "Hello, hello." They're making it very clear that I'm not to be scared. And as soon as they come through, they draw handguns from they're both right-handed from the side. And I remember that they didn't like cowboy guns, because I've seen cowboy films, and these were short guns and they were black. So I suppose automatics. They both draw guns, and they go through past me, and I say to one of the doctors, "Who's that?" And he says to me, "Human enforcement."
Oh.
Human enforcement, that's what he tells me. And one of the guys goes like this and walks towards the front door where the doorbell is rung, and the other one goes like that. No, in fact, he goes like that towards where the kitchen, because we've 2 doors in that flat, the front and the back. And then the next thing is what I call the little helpers. These are the little grey creatures, but I've always called them when I was little the little helpers, because they always help the big ones. And they come through and they start drawing the curtains. And they can reach because they've got long bloody arms, and they start drawing all the curtains, and the curtains are all drawn. So I've got these 2 with their hands on me here, and I say, who's at the door? And they say, them. And I say, who's them? And they say, your government. Then the doorbell goes again, and then I'm told, don't telepathically communicate. How can I explain this? When you telepathically communicate in their world, you send out a wide frequency, which anyone can pick up on, but you can actually make it into a pencil beam, so you can direct your communication to one being without others, and they say to me, use that because we don't want the others to hear that. So I'm told that. And then what one says is, if danger threatens, Mummy will come with many soldier guards, and we will take you to a place of safety. The doorbell goes the 3rd time, and they're probably quite stressed. I've never seen them quite that tense. Anyway, what happens is that one of these guys, this human enforcement, has gone to the back door, and we had like a curtain that covered it, and he's moving it and he's looking, and then he starts making hand signals to somebody outside. And I remember thinking, why doesn't he just use his mind? Why is he doing physical hand signals? And I think, oh, he's a human, so he can't. And then he's moving the curtain more and more, and then I get to see what's out there, and it's person that's dressed like him, but his face is, all the skin is all sucked in, so I'll do it. All his skin's all drawn in, and his body, it's like someone stuffed him full of straw. It's just like he's like all lumpy, and he's not walking properly. He doesn't walk quickly. He's walking really slowly like this, but clearly he's an ally of this guy behind there, because they're making signals. And then this strange looking person who's got white shirt and a black tie, but he's got a hat on, this one, and he's got the sunglasses, and he's walking very slowly like that. And then what he does is he puts his hands above his head and spins in the middle of our little garden, spins round, and that's it. We know it's clear then. So the other guys, they put their guns away. They don't have holsters, they just put them in the suit pockets, but they both stand by the doors and it's okay to go on. So what happens is he takes my hand and then he starts doing it, and I'm watching, and it's really weird. There's no blood. When it goes into the hand, this thing, there's no blood, but the skin, how can I describe it? It's like...
You see it moving from the inside.
Yeah, it's like the skin all goes whoosh, up like that. God only knows. And I start sobbing, because it doesn't hurt at all, there's no pain, but it looks so weird. And what he says to me is, the doctor says to me, look at all the lovely animals that have come from the zoo to visit you. And when I look like that, there's a giraffe and a cheetah in the bedroom, frolicking and playing. I know now that it was in my mind. They were never there, but they were so real. And obviously my attention is taken away while I'm watching that. And then they disappear, and it's all been done. And I look, and there's not a sign. There's nothing. My hand's absolutely fine. There's no blood, nothing. And they say to me, the job is done now. Then we will go. And I can't remember the exact conversations. And I don't even remember how they go. But then the 2 guys come in, and they say to me, danger will not threaten today. There will be no more danger. But now you have that in your left hand, we will know if there's any danger, and we will come and help you. And they both walk into the hall, but the front door never opens. So they just go. They just walk into the front hall. There's no the front door. But I'm not alone, because when I look, there's another little grey creature here, one of the little helpers, and I said, oh, you know, you're here. And he says, I'm going to wait until they called my human mother your adult. That's what they refer to her as, your adult. Oh. So we'll wait for your adult. I'm here so you don't get lonely.
And nice. Can I just ask, the 2 guys, were they human looking as far
Very
as
much
you
so.
can
They had American accents, slight American accents, not heavy, because I was very much into cowboy films, and I noticed that the guns didn't look like the Wild West guns, but the accents were certainly American, and I identified those. Very human, yeah. And when they came through, when the wardrobe doors opened, they were really, really friendly. It was, hello, hello. Because that immediately wanted me not to feel worried by them. And the Dr. Mantid referred to them as human enforcement. So they were humans. There was no question of that. But how they got through the wardrobe, I don't know. I don't know. But when you're 3.5, you accept it. I just thought, well, that's fine.
You've taken on an awful lot of information for a 3.5-year-old. That's amazing.
Well, I think what I would say is that when something's that in your life, you know, if you spend your life and you're 3.5 and you just go to the shops with mummy and you play with your toys, when something like that happens, it does tend to indelibly on there. And also, I think that whatever had been happening to me, I mean, I can only remember, as I've described to you, the memory before being born. But I don't know what's happened between being born and 3.5.
Yes.
I'm clearly not scared by these creatures. I'm quite happy with them, and I'm actually asking them who has sent you. So that doesn't sound to me like that's my first visit with them.
No.
And then the little grey creature, and I say, I know who you are. I don't mean individually. I realise who the grey creature is, and I say to it, you should just do. And he says to me, I should. So then I push my half glass of water towards him and I say, fill it up. And he says, but it already has, I can't remember exactly, it's half full of fluid. Why not drink that first? Then I will fill it up. And I say to him, fill it up. Just fill it up. And he won't. So I say to him, I will end your existence if you do not. So he fills it up. And I leave it there, and then he says to me, but you don't drink. And I say, it is not your place to tell me what to do. You should just do. And he says, I should. So we've come right full circle. They're very, very, very difficult, these grey creatures, very difficult. And then he says to me, your adult returns. I can't hear anything, but then I hear the key going in the lock. And what happens, he changes before my eyes. He's got a very much an egg-shaped head. It changes and it goes round. His eyes, which are wraparound, go into circles, and then it starts blinking. And then a beak appears here. His head is round, and he has wings, and he turns into a huge owl on the end of my bed. Turns, flies away, but as he flies away, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it's the size of a dot on a book, the full stop on a book. And the window's open about that much, but the dot doesn't fly through the gap of the window, it just disappears before that. And then my mother comes in and says, hello, how are you? And I said, that's fine. And I want to show her my magic colouring books that I've been painting, but she doesn't look at them, and she never looks at them, and she's never interested. I always remember that, but I show her anyway. But then she sits and she eats with me, and she says, I don't have to go back to work this afternoon. I've been given the afternoon off to look after you, basically. So, and that was that memory, and I would have been 3.5 because that's when I had.
And did she say anything about had they been, or
no, and I've got no more memory. That's it. So I don't believe we talked about it. I don't know if I remembered very much, and for how long I would remember from that. So that was 3.5. The next one again before I would have been 4. I'm on my own in the house. I don't know why. And then a strange, what I call a star-shaped creature. It's silver-coloured. I'll have to let you have the drawing and you can have a look at it. But it just literally, it just comes straight through the wall. And I'm really scared, really, really frightened of this because it's just walked through the wall. And I scream, and it turns into a clown. So the whole thing turns into a circus clown. But that makes me even worse, and I can tell my mind is already feeling its mind, and it doesn't understand why I'm upset because it's showing me the image of a clown, and it's confused. And then what it does is it changes into a policeman. So the face is wrong. The face is a face of a lion, of a cat, and I go to run towards the door. And it moves to cut me off, but its legs don't move. Its legs just stay still, and it glides. Yeah. It glides.
Okay, girls and boys, I think we can hear the pussycat. Do we want to bring the pussycat in
Are you going to cut it, Miles?
No, well, we're hearing them, so do you want to bring the pussycats in?
No, I think not, because that's the one that will chew through your little cables.
Right. Okay, well...
Will you go on your lap,
No,
perhaps?
no, it's tiny. Oh, we can let the cat in, but you'll be worried about the cable. All right, well, look, we'll give it a go. You obviously want me to.
So what we've got here, Simon's created a memory book, which is really interesting because it's quite extensive. So, and this is from the very beginning. This is from the first memories, and this is what we've got. So this is the kite face.
Yes. That's
coming through there. I don't know whether we can see that. All right.
Hold it to this one.
Okay, so that's the very first
Yeah.
memory with the kite face, and these are
That's the legs.
the legs that are seen
Through the cot.
through the cot,
Yeah.
which I think is that the right way?
Yeah,
No,
top.
that way.
Yeah.
So this is a little baby of 6 months old, recalling this, and these then.
Sorry, what exactly are those?
So these are
Legs.
these are the legs that are seen by Simon. The legs of the creature that he can see through the cot,
Right, okay.
through the railings of the cot, and
That's that way.
then the creature leans over from behind and puts his hands on Simon to pick him up, and this is sort of a
What kind of beings are these? Or do they have a name?
Mantid or mantis.
Right.
Yeah, mantid.
so.
And it is a male. It definitely is a male creature.
So it's interesting that it
And
calls you.
this is from your
6
abduction
months.
or contact at the age of 3?
No.
This is 6
months
months.
old.
This one's 6
Lifted out
months
of the
old.
cot, 6 months
Okay.
old. Yeah.
And this is. Can I show?
Mm.
This one is.
They're all up.
Because as a little baby, the head went back initially, so he did see the face, but he didn't manage to see the body.
Okay.
But those are the legs again that we.
So the baby, this is you in this picture? In the picture.
6
Yes.
months old.
Yes.
This is you at 6 months.
Yes.
Yes, and he's
You
been
are the person,
picked up.
you're representing yourself.
Yes, because
Yeah.
if I show it through my eyes, you won't get the overall
Yeah.
view. So it's just as if you were standing back as an observer.
So it does give you a sense of perspective. You said this creature was about 9 foot, so.
At the time, I wouldn't know how tall it
No,
was,
but
yes.
in fact, this drawing does give it a sense of the height of the size of the creature, of your mother.
Yes.
Hello, Mum.
Yes.
Lovely.
So it's very confusing because, when you refer to your mother or your mum, they're interchangeable.
Yes.
Because it's very hard because when you're very young, I was confused as to who is my mother?
Yes.
Who is my mother? And then later on, if I was in company, I would refer to her as mummy or mum because I'm in company. I'm expected to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was on my own with her, I just referred to her as my adult, and she seemed quite happy with that.
I mean, it sounds to me like the adult mum must have had some knowledge and experience herself to.
She never admitted it, but the more I look at it, thank you. The more I look at it, the more I think about it. I think there must have been because anybody else would have just gone out of their wits.
It's not sort of normal behaviour, is it?
Not really.
I mean, there's not there's anything wrong,
No.
except it's very unusual.
Anybody else would have questioned and asked, and why are you doing this and why are you doing that? And she just let me get away with murder, really. I'll go on to the next one. Before we do, I'll just finish that off. So I was really frightened of this policeman.
Right. Yes.
And this memory I'd had right through from 3.5 years old, right through to last year. And, you rationalise things away. And what I'd rationalised it away as, Mum must have gone out for some cigarettes, left me alone in the flat. I start screaming for Mum. The neighbours call a policeman. The policeman comes in. And that's what I've remembered.
Right.
But it never explained why the policeman had a face like a cat, how something walked through the wall. But we have busy lives, you don't want to be worried about these things, and so you get on with it. But what came back on this memory was basically, I always remember, on this one here, I always remember running and hiding behind the sofa, and I'd draw myself up into the fetal position, and I'm so scared, and I put my hands over my head and I'm screaming and crying because I don't understand any of this. There's a thing that's walked through the wall, there's something that's changed into lots of iconic figures that I recognise, but it didn't speak to me. There wasn't any communication at all. And the next thing I have is a voice saying to me, look at me, don't be scared, don't be frightened, you won't be hurt, look at me. And I recognise that voice. I know that's my mummy, that's the mummy that picked me out of the cot. So I look up over the edge of the sofa and I see that familiar green hand holding a rod, which I would say was about 1.5 foot or 18 inches long, and on the end of the rod there's like a nubbin, and it's aimed straight at me, and there's a crystal inside it, and each facet is activated and it's blue. So one facet goes blue, the next facet's clockwise, next facet, and it's, but not slow, it's quite quick, boom, 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 boom. And then I'm hit with a blue light, and the next thing I'm floating out of the room. That's going to be in this one here. There we are. I'm floating out of the room, and the room becomes, all the room becomes see-through, in the sense that I can see through the walls
Yes,
and the ceiling.
there.
And I go through, and I don't remember going through the ceiling. The next thing I remember...
So this is where you're...
That's where I'm floated out of the ceiling.
Floating.
Yes. Yeah. We haven't got to this bit yet.
No, okay.
This is, well, this is the bit that's coming up.
Right.
And then I'm in a room that's bright blue metal. And there's only one piece of furniture in it, which looks like the same sofa that I was a minute ago. And I'm sitting behind the sofa in exactly the same position, in the sense that I'm behind it, but my legs are out. And there's a dear old lady sitting next to me, stroking my face. And it's a very important, turns out to be a very important pattern. It's 1, 2, gap. 1, 2, gap. And it's this same routine. But when I look at this dear old lady, her face changes and it becomes the face of a cat or a lion, and then it'll change back to being a human. It's happening all the time. And she gives me some toys, and I get a train and some soldiers, I think, to play with. And then I get a bit worried, because where's my mother,
Yes.
my human mother? So I say, where's mummy? And as soon as I say, where's mummy, she points her arm and says, look, there's your mummy. And sure enough, there's my human mother walking toward me. But as I look at her, her face changes, and it changes back to my other mummy, my green mummy here. There's the face change here, and this is the change.
Sorry, let me
between,
just show that there.
So on this one here, this is the face changing between the dear old lady and then the lion face. And then when I say, where's mummy, there's my mummy coming in, but her face changes back to the other mummy. And what the message that comes to my mind is, I'm told, as I see that face, that's your mummy, your human mummy, but I am your more important mummy, or I'm your real mummy. So each time I'm seeing a face, I'm getting a message, but my human mother's face stays up for shorter and shorter periods, so that the green manted face stays longer. And then I run up...
Sort of programming you.
Yeah, I suppose so. I'm getting used to it. And then I run up when he's in his full manted guise, and I accept him, and I say, mummy, 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 look at my toys. And he is so pleased that I've accepted him. He reaches down, picks me up, lifts me up, and as I put there, he says, you are truly loved, you are special. And then he hands me a gem, beautiful jewel, and he says, Simon, look at this. And it's a beautiful jewel. It's about the size of a grapefruit. I have to use 2 hands because I'm only little. And he says, that's the first time and only the second time in all my encounters where they've used the word Simon. So he says to me, Simon, look at this. And he asks me, what do you see? And as I take this beautiful jewel, it's like a diamond. It elongates, as I'm holding it, into the shape of an hourglass. And inside is what I would describe, it's not a nuclear explosion, I don't mean that, but think of a mushroom cloud. It's like a mushroom cloud. And I look at it and I say, mummy, 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 that's the earth, time and me. And I can't remember if he's very happy with that or asked me for something else. Yeah, time, that's the earth, and that's me. So he's quite pleased with that. And then we go on a journey.
So that's that bit.
Yeah.
Which is right at the bottom. Okay.
Yeah, so I've obviously passed whatever test that was.
So this is the last bit
Yeah.
to do with the jewel, which is depicted here, which goes into an hourglass. And then the meaning,
Yes.
which is you, the
It's
earth, and time.
Yeah.
Ah.
And then I'm clearly not in my home because this is the first time I've encountered these. I've encountered them several times. They are transportation discs. They're about 6 foot in diameter, thin metal, maybe about 3 inches in thickness, and you stand on them in the centre. And then I can't make them fly, but they can make them fly with their mind. There's no engines, they just literally levitate and go along. And so we're travelling on that, and I'm very scared, and I hide myself into his cloak, and he puts his arms around me, because I don't like that. I hide in Mum's cloak, and above the ceiling is metal with ribs. It reminds me of a mine shaft. So as we're going along, there appear to be these metal ribs in the roof.
So this is on the craft?
No, it's a flight. It's a small transportation disc.
Oh right, so you're not. Are you inside something?
No.
You're just on it.
Imagine a frisbee.
Yes, you're. Yes,
stand
so
on a
you're
frisbee and it just goes.
Okay.
But they fly it with their minds.
Yeah.
And the next thing, there's obviously lots of gaps here, but I'm put on a table. I don't mean I'm put on it. I sit at a big, like a kitchen table, and I'm given a paintbrush, a little jam jar with water in it, and a set of paints. And around the table there are lots of other creatures, but whenever I look at their face, all I see is a blob and 2 beady eyes. I can't take in the faces. Must be so horrible. So there's just blobs, but his face is fine. I can see his face, and he asked me to paint a picture. So I paint a picture, and I use just 2 colours, blue and green, and I paint 2 rolling hills and a tree. And I don't colour in the bark of the tree trunk, and I just do the green tree. So, and then Mummy says, "What's missing?" And I say, "Me." So, just, "Do you want to put yourself in?" I said, "No, I haven't arrived yet." So that's fine, I've done that. And then he gives me some food, and there's a plate of fruit, and it's banana, apple, and what was the other one? Banana, apple, and orange, I think, or something. And I say, "I like apple," and I reach the apple, but I don't know the words for crisp and crunchy. But he's in my mind, and he says the words for me. And he says, "Yes, I know you like apple because it's crunchy."
So this is at the table?
It's a bit small drawings there. These are the blobby faces which I couldn't process.
How old are you?
3.5.
So you're still 3.5.
A lot happened around the 3.5 mark. Quite a lot. And then he offers me what we call the ceremonial drinking vessel. This is a metal, like an hourglass shape again, but it's burnished metal, and because mantids can't open their mouths to eat like we would, so it must all be fluid ingestion.
Yeah.
And there's like a metal straw that comes out of it. But because I'm very little, they've, as a thoughtful addition, they've put 2 little handles on it for me to hold. But I must make him very proud, because I don't use the handles. I hold it as an adult would hold it. So I don't go for the handles. I hold it as it should be held. He said, "Here, this is for you." That's there.
That's the special.
That's the special. It's a ceremonial drinking vessel. You only have that during ceremonies. So I have that. And then I'm taken to see something rather unusual. It appears to be a very large cat, but it doesn't have a tail. He projects a tail into my mind, but I can see it's not a real tail, so he drops that. And he refers to it as a pussycat, but it's not a pussycat, it's a person pretending to be a pussycat.
Oh.
So they're on all fours, and what he says to me is, "You may stroke the pussycat." So I go up, it's a female, this cat, and I go up and I say, "Nice pussycat," and touch the pussycat. And then here, the cat starts talking to me and says, "You're a cute boy," and starts tickling me. And I'm going hee hee hee, laughing. And then I'm told, "Now it's your turn to tickle the pussycat." So when I tickle the pussycat, she rolls over on her back, but she growls. She doesn't laugh. She goes grrr. That's a happy growl. And then I'm told, "You can ride on the pussycat." So Mantid Mum picks me up, puts me on the back of this thing, and then, you know, like my granddad might put a grandchild on the back and walk round the room, except what here in this drawing that I'm showing, Mantid Mum follows round with the 2 hands, and every time I slip to one side, gently pushes me back into the centre. And the cat says to me, "Hold on tight now, there's a good boy, don't fall off." I now know that this was bonding with this animal.
Right.
This is a female animal that's although I've projected as a pussycat, because they've said to me it's a pussycat, it's not. It's an extraterrestrial.
Is it like a Chewbacca? A Chewbacca?
No,
like on Star Wars?
I would say
Is a type of ET described by other witnesses a bit
right.
like that?
No, not as hairy as that at all. There are creatures I've found out since called lion beings.
Right.
Mary Rodwell has written in one of her books about it, and I've got the book very kindly of her. But I'm not an artist. I'm depicting that on a caricature basis. That's not exactly how it would look. It would look much more human than that. But in my mind as a 3.5-year-old, I've been told this is a cat.
Yeah.
So I see it as a cat, but it's talking to me. So when that's over, the next thing I remember is what I call one of the little helpers, what we call Little Grey, comes up, and I'm really shy of it. And I hide again behind Mum, and I lift his robe up, and I hide my face behind it, and I won't come out. So what Mum does is suddenly a great big pile of toys appear in the front of the room, and a big bar of chocolate. She holds out a really big bar of chocolate. So I come out, there's no chocolate and there's no toys, they've all gone. But what the little helper does is he holds out his hand, and there's a teddy bear on his hand, and he says it's a present for you. So as I go to take the teddy bear, it starts to spin into a whirling vortex. And Mum says to me, hold out your hand, palm upwards. Well, I'm 3.5 and I don't know, so I hold it the wrong way up. And he says, no, not like that. Turns my hand round. Then the vortex jumps from this Little Grey onto my hand, and Mum says to me, what can you see? And this time it's clearer. There's definitely a tree,
So
and there's
that's
me.
the vortex.
Yeah, and there's the tree and me. I say, look, Mummy, the earth and me. So I'm calling the tree the earth. But that's definitely me. This little man here is me with his back against the tree, and I've always got my back against the tree. This is the tree of knowledge.
Ah,
So
okay.
I'm with my back against knowledge. I've turned my back on knowledge. So I'm sitting with my back against the tree of knowledge. And once I say that, it's time to go. There's obviously bits missing. I'm back on the flying disc. I'm scared to hell. I really don't like it, going far too fast. So I hide again, hide behind Mum's cloak. Now, what's interesting is that my human mother told me up to the age of about 5, when we was to go out to Brighton to do the shopping, or she'd stop and meet a friend, I would run behind my mother, lift her skirt up, because she would always have a dress or a skirt on, and hide my face behind it. I now know why I did that. So the routines I was getting into here at a very early stage, I was carrying across time and time again in this world. So I would do things which I'd learnt or seen in that world. You know, at the time I don't think it meant very much to me. I just had this wonderful experience. But what I always remembered was the first part of it, and I'd seen a talking cat. And that, in later life, when I was at primary school, was a problem. I had to see a psychologist because I'll talk about it later, but how can you have a talking cat? But I was absolutely adamant in my mind that I had spent time with an animal that looked like a cat that could talk to me. So that was, again, around 3.5.
And did you, again, ever communicate to your mother?
No, I've no recollection of that at all.
No.
No, not at all. I mean, you know, you'd think that if Mum had gone out for cigarettes and a policeman had been called, there would be some sort of investigation or something, and I have no memory of any of that at all.
And as a kiddywink, you know, being scared about flying on the disc, the speed of it, you wouldn't have said anything to your adult mum in any way, or about
I really don't know how much of that I would have remembered.
Yeah.
I really don't know how much of that. But today I can't go on an airplane. I'm absolutely terrified of heights.
Oh, really?
I can't fly. I can't even go high up. Can't go on a ladder. Terrified of heights, and I'm sure that's got a lot to do with it. So that would be 3.5. Then I think there was a bit of a gap, and the next would be about 5 years old. And this is when I'd started primary school, but my education took a dip because this is my first experience of a shadow, what's called a shadow being. This creature, the memory I've got clearly is not the first memory because I'm not at all frightened of it. I'm in the bedroom and it appears through the window. It's just outside of the window, but I've been taught to signal to it. So when it's okay to come in, I hold my arms out like this, and it then replicates that. We are bonded to work together. It will only work with me. That's what I knew. So it had to make sure that I was the right one to work with.
So it's humanoid shape,
No,
is it? I
where's
mean,
the-
arms, legs, and a
Oh,
sort
yeah,
of
yeah,
head
yeah. Most of them
kind
are.
of look.
Oh, we seem to push that back.
Oh,
Never mind. Doesn't matter. That's you too strong. Too strong.
Oh, is it?
There,
I broked it.
broke it.
So,
That's me.
and you haven't mentioned the shadow being before. So this is your first sort of
This
memory
is my
of
first,
it.
to be sure this is a shadow being. It might be that the star creature earlier might have been a shadow
Okay.
being. But this one, I've always called it my smoke man. I've only
Okay.
called it a shadow being over the last year when Winston Keats...
Yeah,
said to
we're
me,
talking about the Montauk Project, shadow beings, and the shadow beings being seen at the crop circles.
Right,
And
that's
we're
the one.
referring now to Winston Keats. You took video of that.
That's it. So here it's got, this is like smoke. That's why I called it my smoke man. But it doesn't, the smoke doesn't rise up. It just sort of goes
just-
here and then just vanishes, but it's continually being fed. And there are just two little marks for eyes. And once I've given this signal here with the arms out by my side, it comes through the window. And then the second part of this is a recognition protocol. I must put my hands like this. It does the same, and we are now bonded to work. So we've agreed who we are. We're going to work together.
And do you know if this being? Do you know anything about its where it came
No.
from? No.
No.
To
Not at
do
all.
with mum?
No.
Extraterrestrial
No.
mum? No.
No. No. These
Okay.
are totally different. These creatures. They don't have any. Totally devoid of emotion. But they're very psychically powered. So
What sort of communication have you had with these shadow beings? Do they recognise you, see you? In what way do you communicate apart from the arm signals?
how do you mean?
Do you have any empathic communication with them? Do you know
Oh
what
yeah,
they-
you've got to
what are they?
communicate telepathically. You can't speak with your mouth.
But what are they?
God knows. God knows. All I know is that they're energy beings that they're not like a living creature. That's all I can tell you. They're not like a living creature. They could be something that is created by an even more powerful creature.
Like a projection.
Yes, it could well be, because they're not like us. They don't have a cardiovascular system
No.
or anything like that.
And
What
possibly-
makes you say that? How do you...
Well, because I put my arm through it.
Right.
So
So they're not
you
physical.
could just put your arm through them.
There may be also a stepped down version through the dimensions, of a more substantial being, and this is how they can project
It-
through. I mean, who
It
knows?
could be.
I suppose
I
we
I
could.
really don't know. I mean, when you're that age, 5 years of age, you've got to remember that when you're either in their world or when they're with you, we won't have time to do it, but they go into your mind, and progressively, depending on what they need to do, they can actually take control of your mind. What I mean by that is, where I've been with the mantids, they'll just dumb me down to the point where I'm not frightened.
Yeah.
But that's it. It's a very gentle control. Other creatures will try and take all of it, and I've one instance where I got really peed off because this creature was too much in my head, and I actually
Yes.
turned my back on it.
Yeah.
But back to this one. So he said to me, "I've come to make you better. I've come to make your mind better." And I say, "Am I sick?" He says, "No, not make you better in terms of being sick. Make you better in terms of making you better." Well, that doesn't mean anything, but that's what he said. And what happens is that he says, "Copy me," and he'll put his arm up to a position. Imagine you're looking at the face of a clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and I had to do the same. When I'd done that, he'd then put his arm down and put his other arm out to another position, and then I had to copy that, and he got faster and faster and faster. So his arms are going all these different positions like this, and then I'm having to match him. And then over several visits, because this isn't just one, over several visits, what was happening was that I was catching him up to the point that I was at the same time of him. So as he's moving his arms, I'm at the same time. And then what he did is put his arms down, but I had to still move my hands to the positions in his mind he was sending his hands to. So following that, but that wasn't it. Then after a couple more visits of that, this is very difficult to get your head around, he would do we call the arm game. That's what he called it, the arm game. We're going to play the arm game. So we do the arm game, and then he would put his arms down, think where his arms were, and then he stopped thinking where his arms were. I had to put my arms to the positions that he would have put his arms if he was still moving his arms.
It reminds me of martial arts training.
I don't know. But he wasn't thinking anymore where his arms would be. I had to just put my arms where they would have been had he been moving them, or had he even thought of it.
Yeah.
This seems very familiar to John Irwin and his training in British military intelligence in the 1950s, learning how to react super fast, and he called it the machine, that his reactions were so fast.
Right.
So it seems there was a connection there.
Well, that's it. That's
Well,
fascinating.
it does sound like martial arts training to me as well, like a very high level of martial arts training.
I thought it was about trying to learn the future, trying to predict where things would be.
It may be, and even the higher levels of martial arts training, which I'm not I've aware of to some degree, but don't know the whole.
But that was it. Once I'd mastered that, I'd done my job. He'd done his job rather. That was it, finished. But
so maybe it was like some programming had already been implemented for
God
use
knows.
at whatever
I have
time.
no idea, but what I do know is that while that was going on, my academic studies were going down the pan, and at the age of 5 or 6, they were so worried at school that I was assessed, and I was given a reading age of 3, a maths age of 2, but a spoken vocabulary of 13. And they said they couldn't understand, so they got a psychologist in, and I had several psychologists in my time at school, and what I got was one-to-one teaching for English every day for an hour. My grandfather paid for a private teacher to come to the house every Sunday to teach me, and I even went to private school for a year. But once this stopped, it all just came back again. So I guess is whatever was going on here was taking me so much away from what I call the physical world.
It's development of certain parts of your brain.
But when that started, it probably lasted for 6 months.
Right.
I would say, and then after that, then I just sort of all caught back up again. But I'm not at all frightened of it. Not at all scared of it. It didn't bother me at all. I mean, obviously, the last year or so, I've read about shadow beings, and I have had an experience with a shadow being a while back now. But that's the arm game. Doesn't matter if you put it back. There's just a drawing of me doing the arms and following him through. That's just a Tweety Pie owl. That's fairly commonplace. That's Father Christmas came to visit me. That's fairly commonplace. That's another shadow being. This one is worth talking about. In my front room, then the shadow being arrives, and there's a big globe, probably about like a beach ball, a big beach ball, and it levitates off the ground, and I have to put my hands on it, like I've done there. And there's the tree again. It's smoke, and the smoke flows inside, but forms a tree. That's the roots, and that's the branch, and that's the head of the tree. And I just stand there, and I'm doing that. I don't know any more than that, but there's a bigger drawing there of the tree. And then he wants to educate me, because I say to him when he arrives, "Who are you?" And he says, "I'm your teacher. I have been sent to you." So he's my teacher, and I just accept him as my teacher.
He looks a little bit more substantial in this drawing.
He most definitely has got a hood on. He's definitely got a cloak. But the face again is exactly the same. It's just nothingness with just 2 eyes.
Yeah.
But this time he's got a black cloak. But again, I don't believe there's any body behind that.
But there is defined form there now.
Oh, most definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if he's wearing a cloak, that makes him physical.
I've never even thought about it. It's just how he appeared to me with his cloak up. And again, he's not threatening. He's quite open with me, and I will relate, because this is one of the first times I get any insight into what the hell it's all about.
That's just a more detailed.
That's the inside the globe.
It looks like some intestines, actually, with
Oh, thank you.
with a brain.
No, this is the tree. This is the foliage. That's the trunk, and that's the roots. And it's very much like the crystal that I was given when I was 3.5.
So you're generating this using your
No,
thoughts?
no, I don't think so. I think he's putting that into that sphere.
What do you have a sense of what it means? What you're
At that
doing?
age, no, I don't. All I know is that's the Earth. But I'm not in that. That's
Right.
just the Earth.
Yeah.
Now I know what it means, but back then I didn't know what it meant. Yeah, because this is all a crumb trail. They've been dropping me for years.
Yes.
To why the hell they couldn't just say to me, here you are, here's the story in one go. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to cope with it. But this is the crumb trail. This is the first substantial crumb. The next bit will make
Right.
it much more interesting in the
Okay.
sense of understanding. So just the eyes appear, then I say, who are you? I'm your teacher, I'm sent to you. But this time when he holds his hands up, he has like an electric arc running from one hand to the other, like an electric charge. And I put my hands up and he passes this charge across to me. And I take the charge in my hands. He passes it across. I don't know what that's about. And then a book.
Holding power.
Oh, God knows. And then a book
let's see.
appears.
The arc.
Yep.
Holding the
Yeah,
arc.
it's passed
holding
it
the power.
across.
There again.
Yeah. And then a book appears, and then you're going to find out why I have so many cats now. And it's not a real book, it's like a holographic book. It's about 3 foot in size, and it just hovers.
Is this the right one?
Yeah, it starts there actually.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes, at the end of that one there. And on the book, on one side of it, there is a snake, and on the other side is a cat. And he says to me, both the cat and the snake share the same eyes. Then the book picture changes, and the snake is going hiss, and the cat's got its claws up and hissing, and he says both the cat and the snake share the same hiss. Then the picture changes and it shows the snake with its mouth open, sensing the air, and the cat with its mouth open. I haven't done all the drawings.
No,
sensing the air. And he says to me, both the cat and the reptile can sense with their mouth. Then there's a reptile and what we call the third eye in a cat, the extra skin layer. And he says both the cat and the reptile share the same eye. And he says to me, there is much reptile in you, and there is much reptile in those around you. And what I led to believe was that these animals, cats, have been genetically altered, not just as we have, but they have, and of all the mammals on the earth, they have got the most reptilian in them. And when you ask a vet, why has a cat got an eye with a slit, you know,
Yes.
and there's no other mammal that has an eye like that. There is no other animal. And
Yes, I
people will
hadn't
say,
thought.
well, a cat has an eye like that to help it hunt. Well, no, because cats are corporeal. They'll hunt at dawn and dusk. And an owl hunts at dawn. It doesn't have. It has an eye, like a pupil like we have. So he says to me, he uses the word them. And when we use the word them in this context, it's the reptiles. He says, there's lots of dialogue here. Can I just read this bit? You should look after such animals, these lower life forms. It pleases them to see you with your cat. Reptiles on the face of earth are kept in cages, that's now, just as you were once kept prisoner. It has come full circle. But cats have freedom. This pleases them to see you so just. And then he bows to me and says, you are exalted, O High One. And I've drawn myself with a question mark. What's that about? And he bows down to me and then he says, you should never be scared of us. Never be frightened of us. We are all equal, but you command a high position. So what he's saying to me is there's lots of reptile in you, and there's lots of reptile in the cats, and reptiles are kept in cages now and they don't like that. But you don't keep your cats in cages, and that pleases them, and we like to see you with your cat. And you should look after these lower life forms. Well, that's why I've got so many cats, because I'm acting on a suggestion from them. And then he shows me another picture, which is a tree and a little man. And I say, I know what that is, that's me and the tree. And then,
Let's have a look at that one.
and then Eve appears. I don't know it's Eve at the moment, it's just a female walks up. And Eve says to me, eat and take in the knowledge, open your eyes, then you will know what I know and see what I see. So I take it and I say, I eat the apple and I say, we are not what we were told. And then the Lord appears, and I know this isn't going to, some of it's like the Bible, but some of it is not. He's a reptile, there's absolutely no question about that, but he's got a hood on. And I say to him, you're not like us, you're horrible. You're not our father, because he's told us that he is our father. You're not our father, you wish to enslave us and keep us prisoner. And he says, who has shown you such wisdom? Leave the safety of this land, take all your kind with you. I wish you'd never been made. And Eve says, we reject you. What I will say is that there are, at this time in Earth's history, there are a number of safe havens dotted around the Earth. The Earth's not, it's not uninhabitable, but it's barren and it's not safe. So there are a number of safe havens, and in one safe haven is the Garden of Eden. And in this particular safe haven, the most senior of what I refer to as the Lords lives there, and is our Lord in haven. Mm-hmm. Our Lord in heaven. Mm-hmm. So in this particular safe haven, the Lord lives. He is our Lord in haven.
So just to recap then,
yeah.
So we've got a book and we're seeing a tree, we're seeing Eve.
Yes.
And so Eve gives you the apple,
yes,
to eat, which
yes.
you do. Mm. And then is it after you've eaten the apple, you said, we are not what we were told?
Yes.
And is that because you have some instant realization?
Yes. Knowledge.
And so the instant knowledge is what?
The instant knowledge is that we've been lied to.
And what is the lie?
The lie is that we've not been made, we're not natural animals of that creature. He's not that
of
Lord,
the reptile.
Lord God, yes, he's our
right.
He's our father, but he's not our father because we were made.
Right.
We don't look anything like him.
No.
And I'm suddenly aware
right.
that we, Adam and Eve, don't look anything like that creature. So how can he be our father?
Right.
And I reject him as a father. He's not our father figure. And he wants to know who the hell has told you this.
Aha.
And
okay.
the Bible says there was only 2 humans on the earth. No. He says, take all your kind with you.
Yeah.
There are lots of us, and we're chucked out.
So
it's a very emotional time, this.
Yeah. So you
Excuse
still.
me, when are we here exactly, and who are the characters we're dealing with here?
I don't know what year. This is the Garden of Eden.
So we still think you're around about 5 years old, or
Do you
have
mean,
we progressed on
right,
from
no,
when
no,
you're
no,
having
no,
this?
No, right. When I'm standing there looking at the book,
yes.
I am 5 years old.
Right, okay.
But the book is showing me images which they say is me a long time ago.
Ah, okay.
This is supposed to be
me.
me. That's probably me because it's so difficult to explain. It's hard to do it in a structured way. But that is me. I'm being shown a previous life.
Right. As Adam.
As Adam.
As Adam.
Yes.
Right.
So this is the book.
Adamu. Right. Okay.
And I'm being shown that.
So your realization then is really key to human development, in a way. Because if you...
not development, how we came about. How we came about. Because this creature here claimed to be our father. That's what we had to refer to him as, our father. Mm-hmm. But when I had of the apple, I realised that he's not our father because he doesn't look like us. Up until that point, everybody accepted him.
It's like some veil of ignorance had dropped.
The ignorance is the key word because you take your people out of ignorance. You actually give them knowledge. And he could have had us all killed, but for some reason doesn't and says, go, leave the land. Perhaps assuming that we will die anyway without support.
And maybe if he was part of some you were part of his genetic testing, programming, or whatever, then he doesn't want to see his work destroyed.
Know, but there's definitely a thread of reason why he won't. So in that drawing there, both Adam and Eve lead the humans out of Eden, and we go into 2 separate tribes. We lead 2 groups out. Okay,
so there are quite a lot of Bible correlations in a way. Not that I'm Bible schooled, but
neither am I. But
I'm aware.
But there are, I would say, I don't know, 200 humans, maybe more. But we divide into 2 groups, and Eve takes one group. What we've missed out here.
As we come to a close, can we summarise really on this first part?
Well, it sounds to me very much like, and tell me if I'm wrong, Simon, but that you've really established your other life in a very real way, and that this has a lot of value and then impact on on the next phase of your life and your learning and understanding.
What I've learned is that the soul inside my body has been around a very long time. And the reason that the extraterrestrials are interested in me is not because of my physical body, but because of what is inside me.
Soul.
Yes, because if I'm only telling you what I've seen, I mean, they could be lying to me. This could all be a complete lie and a trick, and it's also my interpretation on it. But if it is true, then it would go a huge way to explaining why I'm having so much intense contact, because they are saying we created the human race. What they've said to me is that I'm not the first human. There were a number of humans, but they didn't survive.
Right.
They just weren't right. They would die.
So maybe you were part of the first successful strain.
Exactly, that's exactly right. The very first human that was viable.
Yeah.
So the soul went into that body, and because of that, you see, they're as guilty as hell. These reptiles actually now have apologised several times to me. We are sorry for what we have done to your people. They've actually said that we are actually sorry for what we have done.
Well, maybe in the next part
Yes.
we can describe that in greater detail.
Simon Parkes, on behalf of AMASH, which is the Anomalous Mind Management and Abductee Contactee Helpline resource, which is relatively new in 2011 in the UK, and we are here to give people a voice. We're here to allow people to speak in an empathetic environment and to hear their stories and to put them out there. So we think it's important, and we think that these people who have all these contacts are certainly adding to the picture as a whole. See you next section.